and welcome to Donuts for Breakfast. My name is Trevor Henley. I'm the inspirational activist and founder of Desire to Inspire Studios Foundation. We have with us our awesome, amazing, intelligent team, Rafiz B. That's pretty much our entire intelligent team.
That's a lie.
So well put.
We have
so well put.
the Honorable Dr. Michael Pritchard. Dale.
Dale.
Mark. Said, good thing that's not live. Although it is. Mark Dale of RX Safe Marin.
Right.
And you've been in this industry and working on this for 12 years?
Yep.
Awesome. So we're really excited to have you here with us this morning.
Honored.
It's
great.
I think it's coming into the holiday seasons is full of joy and laughter and awesomeness and family.
Yep.
And then there's the other side of it where it's full of depression, anxiety, loneliness, and
Overabundance of things that people use to self-medicate as well. And Mark is, I have to say, in the many years that I've known him, and he's my neighbor, I've watched his dedication and love and compassion for his own family and trying to awaken the community as to what was going on and how it became really hard. And as we have all witnessed with the interviews that we've done that he sent us from some of the moms who've lived through these things with suicide and overdoses. What's really important is we have somebody who takes the temperature of the community and tries to advise what are solutions to be able to help us address these. And that's Mark's job and the job of his board that he is now presently. You are still with them?
I'm currently in a none with them mode.
Okay, all right.
Which can be explained because it's three-year terms.
Right.
I finished my third 3-year term.
Wow.
Yeah, as chair.
And that's dedication.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing stuff that most people do not want to deal. Tell them a little bit about, give me a day, like, because I deal with you so much with the law enforcement and the school SLEP program and stuff. And that is school law enforcement education program partnership. And they help us. We're trying to just analyze what's going on. Tell us what a normal day for you looks like.
I think one of the things that I try to look at is the best thermometer or barometer that we could use is who we've lost. And I hate to start at that point. That's kind of the best point to start from in my mind, because when you understand the losses, then you can kind of work backwards and try to figure out, okay, why did we lose so many people? I know for 2020 in this county, we lost 71 individuals to substance-related deaths. And 22 of them were fentanyl-related, another 10 were opioid heroin-related, so that's 32 out of the 71. And the rest, it's quite an interesting combination because meth really hits this county hard, and we're not alone. Meth.
One wouldn't
not
think
math,
right.
but math.
Meth.
Okay.
You know,
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, an odd thing, if you're hooked on marijuana, you can't really do math. But if you're on meth, you could do math. So it's a
There you
weird.
go.
But that aside, since we are talking about donuts this morning, gotta find some humor.
Morning
here a little bit.
donuts.
I like it.
Right.
So-
I was gonna say, wait, no, because at one point in my life I was on meth and I was on smoking marijuana. So, and I don't know about math. though. I was just trying to think. I'm going back. Maybe.
Well, it's an amazing process because the other, I got to say this before we move on, the bulk of the 71 are chronic alcoholism or alcohol toxicity. And oftentimes when you look at the death data, it's A plus B equals C, X plus Y equals Z. It's a very interesting mix. It's rare that it takes one drug to take somebody out.
Right.
And I think what's really taking it to the school level,
Right.
that and that's where my highest concern is our youth, because that's where much of this begins.
Right.
If you're over 25 and you want to go ahead and start dabbling and doing stuff, it's unfortunate, but it happens. And many times it's co-occurring.
Right.
So it could be mental health combined with,
Yeah.
you're struggling with something, so you start taking a substance.
Yeah.
with kids, this is how easy it gets. All right. So the reason why I got into this is
Yeah.
because we almost lost one of our sons 4 times. We have 2 boys and a girl, and it caught us, blindsided us. It just we didn't see it coming. But then, as I really started to understand what was driving him, what was hitting him, and how he was trying to self-medicate himself, but self-medicating can turn into self-harm quite easily. So, in a school environment, you got kids under pressure, under stress.
Anxiety.
Yeah, but I'll get to that one in a second. But what they want to do is, in order to take that test, they think they need to take something called Adderall or Addies. DEA calls it meth in a pill. And so you've got this dynamic that you've got a kid taking unprescribed Adderall. Now, if you have ADD, ADHD, it's kind of counterintuitive. You'll end up
Wait a
taking.
second. I thought it was a
Yeah.
good thing for ADHD and things like that.
When they are abusing it and when they are sharing it to abuse
Right.
with their friends, it becomes so triggering to
Right.
all the other.
Yeah,
Right.
and actually you're messing with brain chemistry.
Right.
So you're jacking yourself up. You're coming down. How do you get back up?
Right.
You're coming back down, and when you're down, you're in depression.
Right.
Right.
So how do you get back up? And in a teenage brain, you've got this situation that they think they're going to live forever, but under depression, they don't realize there's a tomorrow, and that's a big
Right.
part of this. So with Addies, you've got this really interesting dynamic in Marin County, is that kids will get it, share it, think that it's going to help them take the test. It's BS. No, it doesn't. They've tested this out. They think they did better. No, they did worse. And the kid who didn't take the Addies, actually, it's one of those things. So, but then you have parents who are driving doctors to give it to their kid for sports performance so that they can do better on the sports field to hopefully get a scholarship to XYZ someplace to go to university under a sports scholarship.
Say it.
What you gonna say?
No, I'm absorbing. Please
yeah.
continue.
It ties
Okay,
directly
good.
into our conversation
Good.
last week about neurodiversity in schools and
Schools
the
and
overachieving
everything, yeah.
and all of that. So
Pressure cooking, and
Yeah.
I'll get to that one
yeah,
before we close, hopefully. But so here you got Addies. Okay, so that's driving kids. Then you've got anxiety.
Right.
Oh my God! I feel such. Oh, my girlfriend broke up. My boyfriend broke up. I got to take this test. I have
Regular
such
life.
anxiety. Okay, they don't have the coping skills.
Right.
They don't have the mechanisms to figure it out. So what they do is they start taking Xannies. Xanax in itself is a very harsh drug on the brain. Our county public health officer will tell you that one. Unprescribed, and it comes in a bar that's scored that's meant to be broken. So you've got this odd situation that's really Xanax in and of itself can be overdosed on. Then it's complicated by counterfeit pills, which are Xanax loaded with fentanyl. And our Major Crimes Task Force, when it was in formation in this county, took off a load of that stuff off our streets. And so this is what it ends up with. A kid goes skiing to Aspen
Right.
or Whistler, wherever it may be, comes back with a bag of Xannies to share or sell to their friends. Holy cow.
That's
Are you
all right.
kidding me?
that reminds me.
happens.
Mine's still.
Yeah, sorry guys.
It's all right.
Let me shut that puppy off real quick. So what ends up happening is they come back to share this bag of Xannies. You could have a mass overdose event at a school site
'Cause
with
of
this.
everybody.
Yeah, because you don't know what's in that stupid counterfeit pill, and it's like marble fudge ice cream. You've got one pill could have 0,
Right.
one pill could have 10. You're dead. That one pill can take you out. So that's our landscape. And when I started this,
Right.
it didn't exist.
Right. I know.
So
But what you're seeing, I want you to. This is, I know this, but this is informational awakening for all of us as community members. Tell them, if you can, about the young man we lost out of Redwood High School who was a physician. Can you tell them? a
okay,
little
so
bit?
let me clarify. That actually is San Rafael High School. That's where he came out of.
Okay.
This young man graduated from San Rafael High, went to UCLA, graduated, went to UCSF, got his DDS. We good?
Yeah.
Okay. Went to UCSF, got his DDS, then went back to Chapel Hill, I think it was, to get his MD. He was going to become a maxillofacial surgeon, which is this area here.
Yeah.
Mom is a doctor, dad is a dentist. Perfect combination. He has 2 sisters. What took him out the day before his receiving his MD, and he was supposed to go to Chicago for a residency to become the maxillofacial surgeon. dead. And it ultimately was, he was a functioning heroin addict. He and pressure cooking. So that, the reason why I use that one,
Well, now, was it heroin itself, or was it?
Lazepam was the other drug in
Okay.
his system, I believe, and that's often what happens. It's kind of like
Mixture.
there's a great book out there called
Yeah.
Uppers, Downers, All Rounders, and so you've got the situation that somebody who is trying to stabilize themselves,
Right.
they're trying to do this balancing act.
Right.
It's a very difficult thing to figure out. So the reason why I illustrate that is that how much did it cost to educate him to that level? And he'll never reach his life's potential of having 2.3 kids and being the maxillofacial surgeon. So you've got to look at that and say, okay, that is a hell of a loss. He was 29. All right. So you think by 29 and under that education level. So pressure cooking. You've got a situation in Marin County right now that Michael and I have been monitoring really heavy. I know you've had some guests here. We have lost a series of senior high school boys have taken themselves out. Why? What is this? And it's at such a level that Michael and I, when we talk, it's like, okay, who's next? And it becomes very difficult. And one of our high schools in Marin County is very much of a center point for this. And I believe in some
Yeah, we interviewed the mothers. You know, we talked to them here on our shows.
horrific.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
You
yeah.
lose one of your kids,
Right.
it's in a natural act. It's not supposed to happen that way. That's not the way it's supposed to go.
Right.
Okay, so I call it a catastrophic loss. And some of the families I've dealt with over the years, unfortunately, the mom decides to take herself out behind the loss of her child. And so it's unimaginable that you could have multiples. But I know of several families in this county who have lost two.
Right.
And so losing two is again undescribable. It just blows your mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Because how do you recover from that?
Let me tell you what this guy does, and so you know, we are down. I've been with him at the university, at Dominican University, talking to young people. We spoke recently to a class on global health systems, and talking about that stuff, and trying to help them. And we had incredible people with us. The chaplain for the FBI in San Rafael Police Department, and a young lady who is Murphy, who is the outreach person for folks on the street who are homeless or maybe with drug addiction or mental illness. And she's a social worker, police officer type of person. She's not actually a sworn officer for carrying a gun or anything, but she's just doing everything she can to intervene on that. And this guy has been doing this for 12 years. And let me ask you, how do you stay, and you know, how do you stay up for this battle? Because you're dealing with politics, you're dealing with this other stuff. And
Good question. So how this all started was really when we got in the battle around my son. And believe it or not, cough syrup is what almost ended his life 2 times. And what happened was one of our middle schools, where he had been at middle school and he was already in his first year of high school, and we caught on to what was going on. It was, they were struggling with the problem at that middle school on cough syrup, Robitussin cough syrup. The ingredient is DXM, dextromethorphan. The way it shuts off the cough is not at the throat, it shuts it off at the brainstem. So Skizzr, Lean, Flan like a G6.
Yeah.
This is the baby brother to Purple Dank, which is codeine and promethazine, which had been highly utilized in the rap world. A lot of African American community got tied up in this one. Well, I know of kids in Marin County who have died from that one. Dying from Robitussin cough syrup, what happens is it sets in tachycardia, and heart rate is 250. We were told by Kaiser he's either going to stroke out or have a heart attack. I mean, horrific. And here we are with our kid, totally.
and it's Marin County.
Yeah.
And it's Marin County.
And so you're sitting here. When I went back to that school site that was struggling, it's like, why didn't you tell the parent community?
Right.
What, you know,
What's going on?
we were already struggling. And, you know, the kicker on this one is that every family who gets in a position that we've been in has a wake-up day.
Right.
Ours was April 3rd, 2009. That magic moment when my son and I are together in the car. I had to drop off some money at the bank, but it was back in my office, and he said, how much you need? I said, what do you mean? He goes, how much you need? I just had a big wad of cash. Like, oh, Nick, what you doing? What you doing? I shouldn't tell you. Okay, I'll tell you. A friend of mine are doing, I think the first one was renting out movies on memory sticks. And so I asked a lot of business questions, okay? Then I said, that really doesn't add up. And then he goes, oh, I shouldn't tell you, I'll tell you. We go through this process where it's 4 different things are mentioned within this. And I'm thinking I'm a great dad. Yeah. Okay, he's sharing.
He's an entrepreneur.
Right.
No, what happening was an upperclassman was feeding him Fizz. Do you know what Fizz is?
No.
Ecstasy loaded with meth.
Oh.
So my kid, 14, was a meth addict. And finally, when Kaiser started the drug testing around him, and we had a great doctor who since passed away, psychologist, hand me a stack of testing slips. And he goes, Mr. Dale, whenever you think he's up or down, something doesn't feel right, and we had been writing a lot of his behavior off to being a middle child, to teenage development, whatever it was. We were kind of doing what most parents do. You don't want to believe what you're seeing.
Right.
So I'd bring him in, and finally the doctors called me back going, it's meth. Your kid's on meth. I go back to my son, I'm like, it's coming up meth. And by this time, my kid's already a pharmacist. Oh, no. He's already researched. No, it's X. It's not meth. No, it was meth. And so almost everything that he did that got him into trouble was directly meth related. Mm-hmm. And so you've got this dynamic that goes on that's just crazy. Yeah. And you got to open up your eyes to it. So what keeps me going is that, are we good?
Yeah, okay. We're good.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what keeps me going is that I was given an awakening that you got to open up your eyes to this thing. Because
and why is that so important for not just you, but all parents?
Well, the reality is that when it's been kept so silent for so many years, the silence has been killing us. Mm-hmm. That's the matter of fact.
Is it silence out of perfectionism or trying to cover things up so there's nothing bad happens here?
It's both. I think that I've met so many families that have lost their kids.
Right, yes.
And they don't, it's a hard pill to swallow that you lost your child due to either a drug overdose or a suicide. Out of the whole spectrum, I've worked with the Compassionate Friends of Marin. Yeah. This is a group of parents who've lost their kids. Right. And if it's cancer, if it's a car crash, if it's something like that, it's like, okay, we understand it, and there's a lot of compassion around it. Holy moly, when you've got a heroin addict, or a meth addict, or whatever it may be, or a suicide dynamic, it is brutal. Yeah. And so I think that the difficulty that I have, and what I've really struggled with, and Michael knows this, he hears what I say. So I didn't want to be an accomplice, or an enabler, or complicit to my son.
There you go.
So I really thought, okay, and part of the first 2 times they almost died on us, I'm alone with him in the hospital at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning. And I got an epiphany the second time, because it could have happened in front of our daughter. And I said to myself, I'm not going to let my wife or daughter find him dead in bed. You don't know how many families in this county and around the nation, they think their kid is sleeping in late on a Sunday morning. No. They go in and their kid is not there anywhere, passed away.
Let me interrupt and just make a little public service situation aware to all of you. I love this guy, not just because he's my neighbor, but because of his dedication. But we work with drug enforcement agents, cops, detectives from the local constabulary. And we see paramedics and firefighters that have to respond to these situations. Mm-hmm. Some as many as 3 times where Narcan, the first responders are exhausted from the same call for the 6th time from the same person, right? Yep. And so what we're seeing for all of us in the community, not just here in Marin, but across California and America, think about this. There are policemen, cops, paramedics, firefighters, school teachers, parents, great parents who love their kids, who will be coming into this. If we awaken, stay awake, as Mark is saying, as we appreciate and have gratitude for the folks that are out there trying to do everything. We combine, we create partnerships with education, we create partnerships with medical staff and with our police, fire, and paramedic service. We can really put a dent in this. But most importantly is not looking the other way and thinking that this won't impact you. Our county bird cannot be the ostrich where you shove your head in the sand and think, oh, okay, we live in a nice area, all things will go well. What Mark is talking to your souls about is exactly this. Yeah. What do you say to all the parents and the teachers and everybody? You've been grateful ever since. I mean, I've been with you at the university level, the college level. I've been with you in the high school and the elementary school level with the cops and our SROs, school resource officers. And people are exhausted. They're tired and we need help. But what do we need most, Mark? What do you think from the public at large? And what do you guys think too? Because I know I didn't mean to so because you're parents and you're thinking about your children right now.
Well, I'm also thinking about. I mean, right. I'm grateful that in October I celebrated 8 years of sobriety, and I started down my path of drug use in middle school or high school, right when I was 14, and I was a very functional stoner at that time, and then it progressed until my mid-20s, and then I went in what period of my life that I call the best part of my life that I'll never remember. Really, it was just I was hitting bottom, and I didn't want to admit it, and I was depressed and everything, and I got the fortunate capability of living through that multiple times that I should have passed away, and then I had the chance to sit down and actually think about it. Because life said, you don't have any other options right now. You're alive. You can't use your body. Figure out what the heck you're doing. And I did. But I think about all the things that you're just mentioning. I remember NoDoz, and when I was in high school, people would use them. I was like, well,
7-Eleven. You go in to get NoDoz at 7-Eleven because the...
Yeah, I mean, and there was plenty of other things. There was a lot of Coke. There was a lot of other things, and I wasn't really a high achiever, so I didn't partake in it for that reason. I was more of the stoner kid.
But you were a neurodiverse learner, and there was pressures on you.
Yeah, and and there was, and you could see it. And it's just in my story alone. It's like part of why I do this now, and I think why you do this is what you do is because you've been through the experience, right? And the reason why we do this show is to educate people, to give them information. If they don't have direct experience, it's to give them that they have a resource for someone that has had direct experience and can help.
What was that inception point? Why did you use that very first time?
Well, I was on a field with a soccer field with a couple other kids and a Coke can, and it sounded interesting to try.
Okay.
At that point. And then the first real caveat was I was working for someone and I went to I was doing handyman kind of stuff. And he was like, hey, do you smoke? And I was like, sure, why not? I'm cool. I can do it. And I did it. And then I ended up working like 17 hours, not 17 hours. I ended up working like 11 or 15 hours or something like that. And at the end of the day, I was handed a wad of cash for my day's work. And I was like, ooh. So I look back at it now and I go, well, mentally I was triggered that I could get high, escape life as it was, do one thing really good at a time, and then get paid for it? Okay.
A lot of money, right?
And that was under meth?
Right.
No, that was just weed. But at one point in my life, I did do meth, I did Coke, I did a lot of E at one point. Fortunately, I don't think I ever got crossed with the two at the same time, but...
Well, thank God you're here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, 100 million%.
Yeah.
And I thank you for being here because of your leadership in this community with this Desire to Inspire Studios. You and Ra are remarkable young people because you're guiding us to our, your generation needs to be doing this and hearing this. And I know it's hard. I get it. But each of us, there's a great line by a writer named Vignell. In order to make your dreams come true, you must wake up.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And that's the key. And you know,
That's true.
Well, and I think going back to what you're talking about is keeping your eyes open, right? It's much easier for us to ignore it or pretend it's not happening.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I'll never forget one of the early interns that I had from Redwood High School. I was doing photography interns and I was hosting them, and he came to me and I was like, "This internship's not about photography. Like, it's about teaching this kid," because he was me in high school. He was a total stoner, total out there, like happy, you know, connecting. And I was like, "Oh, he's gonna hit a wall at some point." And I told him that immediately. And I was like, I know what you're doing. I can tell everything. And I talked to him and we confirmed it. And then I'm like, your role in this internship is to learn to put your hands out in front of your face. And
Wow.
long story short, he came back to me
Great line.
10 years later after this internship and said, "Hey, I need a new headshot." And I was like, "Okay, great." I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, at one point during my life, I was headed this direction. And then I remember your stories of what you told me about your life. And I made a conscious decision at that point to either not go down that or go down it. And I decided I wanted to live a better life and I didn't want to go down it."
Excellent.
And so now he's working on managing hotel chains. Like,
Yeah.
and so I was like, that's why we're here. That's what
Right.
we mean by keeping your eyes open. If you don't have a direct experience, ask someone that does.
Yeah.
Even-
Rob, what did you learn today? Because you're a mom, you've got little ones, and you know, but you're a brilliant soul. And what are you thinking that you're learning today about all of it in Marin?
The fact that there was a drug issue at the education level and parents weren't informed
Right.
is terrifying.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear. We've lost a couple of friends over the years that
Yes, of
just
course.
didn't wake up. And I think at the time it was, whether it was an overdose or wasn't, that was never made public knowledge. But knowing who they were, I'm
Yeah.
more than likely that's what it was.
What does that do to you at a younger age? What does that do to you when you hear this?
I've lost so many people in my 20s to various things: suicide, drug overdose, weird extracurricular accidents.
Yep.
I lost that piece of innocence, that I'm gonna live forever piece of innocence, really young.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Really young. And then I was introduced to the effects of drugs and how it affects people and their families really young.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the pressures and choices that were made, that I made during like those middle school and high school, those transitory years, were based around the fact that I didn't have that innocence. I knew what crack looked like.
You had seen trauma.
Yeah, I knew what those things
Yes.
were. And to me, now was not the time for that. In high school, I was an athlete and a musician. My body was a temple. I didn't do that stuff.
Right.
When I got to college, then it was about mitigating damage, mitigating danger,
Wow.
putting myself in the safest position possible to experiment and be in control as best that I could.
Right.
I'm a very rare case, and I recognize that.
Right.
To have people who were around me who want to do this, you're going to do this in the safest way possible. We're going to test this. We're going to make sure that you're not out in the middle of like, people would ask me all the time, "So you've done E, that means you've been to raves." I'm like, I would never be caught dead at a rave, period, let alone on drugs at a rave. That's asking to die.
Yep. Why
Why would I do that? And people are like, oh, like there's this split between the schools of thought are hide it, shield them, keep them safe. And that's like that one piece of that half of that circle. There's the educators in the middle. Okay, so it's a Venn diagram now,
Yeah.
right? Not a circle.
That's us.
Venn
So,
diagram.
it's a Venn diagram. You have the educators in the middle who want to do all of those things, but also recognize that you can't do that without educating kids and parents about the dangers, about why there's so much crossover about, you know, what the underlying issues are. And then you have the people that were in my world in my 20s who had their bad experiences, had their aha moments, and understood that you were always going to get curious kids. You were always going to get kids who had to self-medicate for
Ride
some
the
reason or
razor's edge,
another.
right?
Right. You had those kids, and those were the people that were like, I can't tell them not to, but I can do my damnedest to keep them alive while they try.
Amen. And that's what he and I have been doing. And that's why, and here's why. You know why? Because I'm blessed by you, and I'm blessed by him, and I'm blessed by these kids here. I'm blessed to be the age I am, to see how brilliant you become and how you can become part of the solution, and to teach us the suffering, the sorrows, the pain. And to think of this man and his kids. I see these kids every day, and they're amazingly beautiful kids. And the thought of losing any one of them in my neighborhood where they're playing with the kids and having fun, they're just remarkable young people and a gift to our neighborhood. And what I say is battle, battle, battle for your child. Do everything to get between you and the sickness that tries to take them in the form of drugs or violence or hanging out with the wrong crowd. Do everything you can. And don't be wimpy, folks.
Nope.
Don't be wimpy.
You have to show up.
You have to
If
be
I
there.
could share two things.
Yeah,
So
please do.
Going back to the original question, I decided that the way that I was going to help solve this problem was to roll up my sleeves and get to work.
Yes.
And so the first thing I started was something called Project Grace, which then shifted over to Families for Safer Schools. And that entity has helped with over 100 drug-related cases at the local, county, state, and federal level, plus 5 teacher coach predator cases, which is another show. And those cases are as tough as can be. Drug cases are quite easier compared to the sexual predator cases in our schools in Marin County. You want to talk about a tough one? That's a tough one. The next one is, then I started the Marin County Prescription Drug Abuse Task Force. And that brought in law enforcement like you wouldn't believe. They understood what I was doing. And part of what I was doing was I was tracking kids that we were losing away at college. Chico State, San Diego State, Arizona State, University of Michigan. I know, ASU. Had to take it. So, but these are Marin families
Yeah.
who've lost their kid someplace else. They're not part of our number
Right.
in Marin County, but that family is suffering a catastrophic loss
Yes.
that's
Yes,
beyond
sir.
belief.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the county approached me and said, "Ooh, we want to do something special with this." So then that became RX Safe Marin. RX Safe Marin became recognized throughout the state and nation. CDC and SAMHSA have sent in folks to analyze us because it really is meant to be a community-led effort supported by HHS as the backbone. That's the concept. It doesn't always work that way. But it's brought in millions of dollars in grants to this county trying to attack this in different ways. So at the end of the day, I'm the co-founder of it. I'm the guy who, so I can be harsh on it too, because it's not perfect.
Right.
It's meant to be prescription drug misuse and abuse. It's not meant to be just opioids.
Right.
I've asked the powers that be, say, look, we got to attack Xannies, Addies, and cough syrup. Those are 3 of the items that our kids are messing with, that they shouldn't be, that we need to educate them on, and the parent community on.
Right. Exactly.
So then along the way, there's something in our county called the Alcohol and Other Drugs Advisory Board. And so I became a member actually about 10 years ago of that board, and then became chair about 5 years ago. And a part of the frustration I've had is the political crap that goes on at all different levels.
Yeah. And all of the stuff that happens, and this is, I'm begging people out there to listen to what we're saying. When you bring politics into stuff, I tell everybody, the first thing you learn as a medic, and Mark and I were in the same branch of the military,
Air Force.
You learn, the great gift is this. I'm not left wing, I'm not right wing, I'm for the suffering wing of humanity. Which means take care of those who are in front of you that are wounded, that are hurt, that are suffering, that are hungry, that are in need. And if you get into the middle of an argument politically about how that best summits and how the money is spent and all that stuff, you're wasting TikTok, my time. I got stuff to do. All of us do. Mark does. And what's happened in the past 10 years is all of the politics and the name calling, the diminishing, the attacks, the stuff. Okay, injustice, I get it. If there's injustice, we must stand up against it. This is Dr. King's line. Don't look the other way when evil is done. Got that. But the minimalization of attacks on things in microaggressions in rooms when you're trying to accomplish a goal that's really simple for the county to get, and you have to spend 5 extra hours arguing with people, folks, this isn't progress.
Oh, I've been called names. I've been put down by the
For just
politics.
wanting to help.
Yeah, and I made money off this. This is not making money. This is
No.
volunteerism at its extreme. But I want to share one really interesting story.
Real quick, just as, I'm sure you self-medicate because of all those.
Good question. Good, I love you. So I just
That's why I
just
loved
tried to
him when
keep-
he was a kid, too.
Yeah, just tried to
Snarky malarkey.
tried to keep balance. Just tried to keep balance. Luckily, I've got a great wife, 31 years, and she has been very supportive of the effort.
We hold down the Russian corner in our neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly.
The Russian
Exactly.
corner.
So what happens is the 3 frogs, and I love this story. So if you take a frog and you put him in a pot of hot boiling water, he'll jump out.
Right.
If you take a frog and you put him in a pot of cool water, turn up the heat, he'll die. I saw this firsthand when we had 2 student suicides. And the reason why I look at suicides a lot is that one of our great coroners in this county years ago taught me that the cause of death is not always what caused the death.
Right.
So if that youth
point of
hung themselves, what was driving it?
Right.
Was the substance related? Okay,
Right.
so that's a big one. But when we had 2 students in 2010 take their lives, young, beautiful students that should not have, one was middle school, one was high school, that was a huge wake-up call. But I saw the apparatus around it, the structure. Everybody's running with fire hoses. They're getting grants to help relieve their stress. I'm like, wait a minute, what about the families?
Right.
The families who lost. Okay, so that's one. The next one is if you take a bucket of frogs, one tries to get out, the others will grab them and try to pull them back in.
Right.
Okay? So what happens is in middle school, especially because puberty, brain development, body development, all these things, awkwardness that goes on.
Middle
So
school is
it's a tough.
Yeah.
Okay.
a dumpster fire.
Oh, exactly.
Middle school is a dumpster fire.
There's
It
a
is.
huge poster.
Oh,
Middle
God.
school is
It
a dumpster
is.
fire.
It is like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I'm
you're
sorry,
trying to get
continue.
your sense of identity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So what happens is you've got the athletes, you've got the cheerleaders, you've got the stoners, and so what happens is if you're not a football player anymore, you're not one of us. If you're not a cheerleader, you're not one of us. So, but what happens is in the stoner group, you've got an odd dynamic that it can be very accepting of other kids because usually these kids are struggling with misery or uncomfortableness or something. So they kind of like group together in a sense. But how do they get out of it? Okay, so if they want to get out of that grouping and their identity is belonging to that grouping, how do they get out? And you're not one of us anymore. So where's your sense of identity, your sense of self, who you are is really important.
And you begin to spiral.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I got to tell you, going back to the frog thing, because in our world that we live in Marin County, everybody else said, oh, how great it is, how beautiful it is. We have a boy crisis. The book has been written on this. One of the authors in Marin, The Boy Crisis, is very important. And it's a book. Look into it. Just look it up. You'll find it.
Okay.
It's by 2 well-known authors. And so you've got in Marin, there's like this veneer, this facade that is created to make it look like it's so special. But I'll give you a factoid. What happens is we are the healthiest county in the state for the last 12 or 13 years. One year, we were even the healthiest county in the nation for under 18s, believe it or not. We are oftentimes number 2 when it comes to drug overdose deaths in this state when you adjust for our population. What is that?
The gauntlet.
Yeah.
of pressure. The gauntlet of self-medicating.
That's
The
crazy.
gauntlet of
Yeah.
Those are the craziest statistics.
I know.
Well, I
yeah.
just read this morning on and that similar is like, you know, we're the highest vaccinated against COVID, Marin County, right? Set the standards, but we're also the highest.
Words.
No, yeah, words. I lost them all.
Anti-vax?
No. Affected.
Yeah,
Currently.
I got it.
We're the highest
have the
vaccinated,
highest
but we're
infection
also
rate
we
right
also
now.
have the highest infection rate.
Yeah.
It's something I read
Really?
this morning. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, but we have no ill effects
Right.
as
From-
meds because everybody's vaccinated.
because
so
it's,
you don't know. There's only
we've
one person. In
rather
the hospital.
we've kind of
Yeah.
in a way reached the herd immunity that everybody was
Right.
trying to achieve. What I know we're almost out of time,
Yeah,
but I want to
we're
say a
probably
couple
way over
things.
this
I just want to say to both of you, as
We're way over.
as
It's a half hour ish.
yeah, as an older person, grandparent, I just want you guys to know I love and believe in you and your kids. And you do everything, listen to what he's talking about, because we need your leadership awakened for the millennials who are now raising kids here, for the generation right before, and for the generation after, because these kids are smart. These kids are awake. And they're not buying into the stuff
they're
that
a
they
different
used
breed.
to. And I look at them in the neighborhood, and one of them made me burst out laughing. I said, how's the bullying at your school? And he goes, nobody bullies because everybody's afraid, not of the bullies, but about being called a bully. And he goes, I think that's pretty exceptional. And I'm like, whoa, wow. I think that's pretty exceptional. And that's the key.
Yeah.
The
Well,
key is reverse peer pressure of positivity.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Right.
How do you do it? I mean, the bystanders,
Yep.
you know, when bullies go upstander, you know, how even in our adult world, when you
Right.
see something going on, what does it take for you to step up and say, no. We're going to tackle this. We're going to approach it.
I think it's reflexive in a lot of cases. The younger generations, I think, us and down, we all have our threshold for what we'll stand for and what we'll stand by. And I think the threshold is just dropping. Like, you know what I mean? We are getting to a point where kids are just not good with it. They're like, nope, I don't care how old you are.
Right.
I don't care who you are to me.
Yep.
Right.
If I don't feel like it's right, doesn't matter
I'm
if
not
I'm
doing-
4 or 14, I'm going to tell you that I'm not okay with it. And I think that is hugely in part because of the parenting styles have changed so much.
Right.
You know, we don't have a fear of authority like we did. We don't have, you know, dissent is disrespect. We aren't being taught those same things. We're teaching our kids boundaries as young as humanly possible.
Yep.
And you're going to come from that are some solid, like really grounded youth in who they are and what they will accept. And I think that that's going to be pivotal in changing the dynamics of schools. You know, there's a school in Wisconsin right now, I think it was last month, that had multiple cases of sexual assault charges or sexual assault allegations. The kids were coming forward and the school was ignoring it. And the entire student body had a mass protest and the school didn't know what to do with it. So they called the cops, which was not good. But the point is that we're teaching kids that they are people, not just our property, and that they have rights just like we do as adults.
Yep.
And they're exercising those
Great
rights.
point.
And it's going to make a huge difference on how they take care of each other and how they take care of the world.
Well said.
I want Mark to come back at some point.
Yes.
Yeah, I was
Can
gonna
you
say
please?
we have to wrap this up because I'm sure we're at like 2.5 hours.
No, but this is amazing.
But you
this
know
is
what was great for me
incredible.
was watching you two and your faces, because you and I are together
this
a
is
lot. and I-
amazing.
yeah.
Please come
Yeah.
back
Yeah,
like,
we will
next
definitely
week.
do this next week. You're more than welcome to. So thank you very much for joining us
Yes.
today. Thank you very much, Mark, for this conversation. Thank you, Michael. Thank you,
You bet.
Raw. This has been a very enlightening, hard to hear sometimes,
was rough.
at many points triggering for an addict, and reliving some of the mental things that have gone through that you were talking about. But this is important. And Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of our community of people helping people. And lastly, a big shout out to Grimshaw and Cesar. And today we have Justin, who is with us. And Pose camera. Oh, wait, we don't have one set on them, but we will soon.
One day.
So thank you very much. Go out there, be the remedy. Share your stories, share your successes, share your struggles. And if you're concerned, ask somebody.
Yeah.
Just ask somebody.
Have
Have a good
y'all.
day.